scandals, landslides, playoffs, and more right after this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching. I'm glad you're watching. I'm Caroline Haney with 5 Things Sports, here bringing you 5 sports highlights for the week of September 25th through October 1st, 2017. First up this week, a story many of you have probably heard at least a little something about. The NCAA had a basketball scandal that erupted onto the news circuit last week and has just been growing ever since. 10 were charged last week on federal charges, including 4 assistant college basketball coaches from schools across the country, an Adidas executive, and others that provide services such as financial service providers. Because the story is so big and continues to grow, I've broken it down into 4 categories so you understand what's going on. First, we have the services category. All of the basketball coaches charged in this so far fall into the services category. They have been charged with bribery conspiracy, solicitation of bribes, honest services fraud conspiracy, honest service fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and the Travel Act conspiracy. The coaches face a maximum sentence of 80 years in prison. The college coaches have been accused of accepting bribes in order to steer college players who are going to go pro towards certain financial service providers and tailors and other services like that. The second part of this scandal involves Adidas. One Adidas executive has been charged with funneling money to players' families so that they will sign with schools that are sponsored by Adidas. This brings us to Louisville's part in the scandal. Though no one at Louisville has been charged yet, they are also accused of funneling money to players' families so that the players would sign with the school. And though our favorite mobster in basketball, Rick Pitino, denied having any knowledge of this going on, it has now been discovered that he is being accused of directly requesting money from Adidas to go to particular athletes. Pitino and the athletic director at Louisville have been suspended without pay. Their firing is probably going to happen later this week, as Pitino had a clause in his contract saying that he had to be notified 10 days in advance before being fired. He was notified last week, so we're expecting to see that happen later this week. Finally, we have the future. As I said earlier, I'm sure this is just going to grow and grow the longer it goes. Those who have already been charged, you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to try to make deals by providing information that implicates others in the whole scandal. I'm sure that Adidas wants to get Nike involved in this, and I just really expect this to grow and grow, and we'll probably see a lot more big names from the sport involved by the end of it. But there's a lot of rules that govern the sport of basketball that are probably going to be changed or at least looked at in the coming months. For example, the NBA's one and done rule requiring athletes to wait a year, usually meaning they play college basketball for a year, before being eligible for the NBA draft. This rule has already come under scrutiny in the past, and it probably exacerbated this issue already. So I can definitely see that it would be looked at in the future. Then you have the NCAA's involvement or lack thereof. One of the big questions for the NCAA is, where have you been? In the past few weeks, we have seen the NCAA crack down on freshman cross-country runner Ryan Trahan's YouTube channel, where he's not really making that much money, but they missed these other players making hundreds of thousands of dollars just to sign with a school. So I think they're probably going to be more upset that they didn't get a cut from Adidas themselves, but we'll see how that plays out in the future. You can also expect to see this enter the conversation about athletes being paid and compensated. If Adidas is willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have these athletes sign at schools that just wear Adidas gear, then that obviously means that their playing at those schools is worth a lot more than $100,000 and a lot more than a 4-year college degree. So it will be interesting to see how that conversation evolves as this goes on and on. As always, I will be sure to keep you up to date with any relevant info that comes up with this. Of course, I will be sure to keep you up to date in the future with any new relevant findings that comes up with this. So be sure to hit that subscription and notification bell so that you don't miss an episode. Number 2 this week, golf's President's Cup took place at Liberty National Golf Club right across the river from New York City. The President's Cup pits the top U.S. players against the top players from the rest of the world except Europe. The U.S. plays Europe in the Ryder Cup in even number years, and it plays the rest of the world in the President's Cup in odd number years. The U.S. came out on fire on Thursday, taking a 2-point lead, and they never looked back. In fact, by Saturday afternoon, they had a chance to win it all and make Sunday absolutely irrelevant. However, they came up just 1 point short. They did seem to take their foot off the gas just a little bit on Sunday, but still came out with a resounding victory of 19-11. Congrats to the U.S. team on a great weekend full of golf that was a lot of fun to watch. Number 3 this week, the MLB Playoffs are officially set. The American League East will be represented by the Boston Red Sox. This is the first time the Red Sox have won back-to-back AL East titles. American League Central will be represented by the Cleveland Indians. American League West by the Houston Astros. The National League East will be represented by the Washington Nationals. National League Central will be the Chicago Cubs. This is the first time the Cubs have made 3 straight postseason appearances since 1906 to 1908. And the National League West will be represented by the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers won 103 games this season, the most they've won since they've been in LA. Your wild cards for the American League are the New York Yankees and Minnesota Twins. The Twins are the first team to make the playoffs the season after losing more than 100 games. These teams will play on October 3rd in New York City. For the National League wildcards, you've got the Arizona Diamondbacks and Colorado Rockies. This is the first time in 8 years the Rockies have made the playoffs. These teams will play on October 4th in Arizona. There's a link in the description below that has the dates for all of the playoff games. Number 4 this week, the NBA is getting ready to kick off its season, so we're starting to see teams in the league move in that direction. The league actually started their preseason games over the weekend, and the league came out last week with some rules changes for the new season. The first change is one to the lottery draft system that the NBA has. Starting next year, the teams with the 3 worst records in the NBA will all have a 14% chance of getting the number 1 draft pick. This is down from a 25% chance previously. This change has been made to try to discourage teams from tanking when they see that their season's not going very well in an effort to get the first draft pick. And also, one of the rules that probably will have a greater effect on teams is the new rule prohibiting teams from resting healthy players, especially on road games and games that are nationally televised. This has been a big issue in the NBA the last couple of years, and now teams face significant fines if they are found to be resting players who are otherwise healthy. And finally, we see teams trying to dot their I's and cross their T's on contracts to get ready for the season. This week, we saw reigning NBA MVP Russell Westbrook sign a contract with the Oklahoma City Thunder for $205 million over 5 years. This is the largest contract in NBA history. And the Cavaliers picked up Dwayne Wade in an effort to put together another championship run. Wade, of course, has played with LeBron James before for the Miami Heat, where they went to 4 straight NBA Finals and won championships in 2012 and 2013. It'll be interesting to see if they can carry that into a new city and a new team this year. Number 5 this week, we've got our college football updates. As usual, if we do not cover a team in the top 25 in this, it means that they beat their unranked opponent this week. This week we have number 2 Clemson at number 12 Virginia Tech. Clemson won 31-17. This makes Clemson the first team to ever beat 3 top 15 teams in the month of September. Number 5 USC was at number 16 Washington State. The Cougars beat the Trojans 30-27. Heisman candidate and USC quarterback Sam Darnold fumbled with about a minute and a half to go in the game to seal the Trojans' first loss of the season Friday night. Number 13 Auburn was home against number 24 Mississippi State. Auburn won 49-10. And unranked Troy upset number 25 LSU 24-21 at LSU's homecoming, and they got paid $985,000 to do it. This broke LSU's 49-game home win streak against non-conference opponents. For overtime this week, we've got some NFL updates for you. Thursday night's game between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears nearly ended in tragedy as Devontae Adams took this nasty hit from Bears linebacker Danny Trevathan. Adams laid motionless on the field for what seemed like an eternity as medical staff worked on him and then transported him off the field on a stretcher into the hospital. He was able to give the fans in the stadium a thumbs up on his way out. He was released from the hospital the next day and He is in the concussion protocol but seems to be doing okay. Trevathan has received a 2-game suspension from the NFL, but reports say that he does plan on appealing this. The Panthers went to Foxborough this weekend and defeated the Patriots 33-30. This is the first time the Patriots have lost multiple home games before Week 5 since 2000. And Panthers quarterback Cam Newton became the first quarterback in NFL history with 50 rushing touchdowns. And the Texans seem to be finding their rhythm behind rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson as they beat the Titans this week 57-14. Watson became the first rookie quarterback since 1961 to have 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in a single game. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you missed an episode in September, be sure to check out the September playlist down below right there. And be sure to check back later this week for the September updates episode. I'm Caroline Haney for 5 Things Sports, and I'll see you next week.